who are coming in and doing your lessons with you and your sessions, and then also just coming to speak. And so this morning, you are really, really fortunate because the gentleman that's going to speak to you travels all over the nation, probably internationally at times too, working with companies with their sales teams. And so it's all about teamwork and sales and how you present yourself and all those things I just talked about. And so Steve Nudelberg is the principal thinker. I love his title, principal thinker at On the Ball Marketing. But he is a very, very dear friend of mine, and we were really lucky that he was not out of town today. And when I called him and said, hey, would you come and speak with our kids about teamwork and communication and all that, he said, absolutely, I love giving back. And so I think you are really going to enjoy him. I have a lot of energy. I think Martha would tell you I am a really passionate person, high energy. I don't even come close to this guy, okay? So get ready, okay, to be rocked, all right? So I have nothing further to say.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. As Lori said, I am very excited to be here. I have been an entrepreneur since I was 18 years old, which was a long time ago. This program was not available when I went to high school, and I wish it had been. I love what JA is doing. I love the fact that they're exposing this entrepreneurial spirit to you at a young age, because becoming an entrepreneur is really the ultimate in self-responsibility. You know, you can't point the finger at anybody else. A lot of people who work for somebody else can always say, well, it was them that did this, and this is what happened. There's always a list of excuses. This is all about you. And I'm a firm believer that whatever you want in life, you can get. It's just a matter of what you're willing to give up to get it. So I'm fortunate that I am a entrepreneur. I mean, it's funny, 10 years ago that nobody really even knew what that word was. Now Shark Tank and all those type of shows make it kind of sexy to be an entrepreneur. The bottom line is people who follow their passion, people who do what they love, the money always follows. And if you read about successful people in business, it's never been about the money. It's always about their desire to achieve something, their passion to do something they love. One of the guys that I'm fortunate enough to do business with is a guy named Damon John. And in listening to him and his story about how he built FUBU, it had nothing to do with the money early on. As a matter of fact, he leveraged everything he had to make that business work, but he wanted to be in fashion. He wanted to dress people. And so the one clue that I would ask you before we get into the program is that do a lot of reading. There's a lot of successful people, right, who have written books, and those books are meant for you to, you know, devour that information, take it, digest it, and understand that everybody's had a different story, but however they got to where they did, there were lots of hurdles. There is never, ever, ever a straight line, ever. It is always riddled with these obstacles that when you really learn what being an entrepreneur is about, every obstacle is just an opportunity to learn. Every failure is an opportunity to learn. So they've asked me to speak about teamwork, and so I put together a presentation that I'm more than welcome to share with you afterwards. I don't know if you have something to take notes, but the name of my presentation, and it's very interactive, so I'm going to ask you guys to actually read along with me on some of the stuff. So the name of the presentation is There Is an I in Teamwork. Who has actually heard the term, there is no I in team? Right, so I'm going to teach you today, I'm going to share with you today that that's an absolute fallacy, and I'm going to back it up with fact. So, without further ado, let's get rolling. Anybody know who this guy is? Any football fans in the audience? All right, cool. That's Nick Saban. So why don't you read what Mr. Saban had to say?
Everybody always says there is no I in team, but there is an I in win, because the individuals make the team what it is, and how they think and what they do is important to the team.
So in order to be in just about any business, you're going to need people to help you. Unless you want to live on an island, you have to have other people. The quality of those people, what they think, how they react to things, that will dictate the quality of your business, always. So you're only really as good as the next person sitting next to you. So as an entrepreneur, you could get into a business that I guess if you wanted to mow lawns, you would do that all by yourself. but the minute you wanted to grow that business, you'd have to have somebody else that you can trust and somebody else that you would need to communicate with. And so all of this teamwork is about this idea that what are those people thinking? So keep going. So anybody know who this guy is? This is certainly an older, but this guy is known for creating the original great football teams. And if you would do me in the back, would you read that?
Teamwork is essential. That is what makes a team work. A company work, a society work, a civilization work.
So just about anything that you can point to, there is some teamwork going on. It's easy in sports to look at that because obviously they are teams that we recognize. But teamwork happens in a family setting, it happens in the business setting, it happens just about everywhere. So this guy is the current head coach for the Michigan Wolverines. And the reason why I have his sort of ascension, he started as a quarterback at Michigan, he became a quarterback for the Bears and the Colts, then he became a coach at Stanford at college. He then went on to become the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, and then ultimately right now, he's the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. And there's a specific story about him that I sort of want you to own, if you would. When in 2013, there was a guy named Mike Singletary who became head coach, who was the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody picked that team to be a great team. They had a great coach. Mike used to play, he was a Hall of Fame player who played for the Chicago Bears. Unbelievable tenacity, great guy, really fired up. They had incredible talent at every single position, and everybody forecasted that they would be an amazing team. Fast forward to the end of that year, they went 3-13, right? So they fire Mike Singletary, and they bring in Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh comes in and makes no changes. He did not replace anybody on the team. He did, however, do one thing, and it's the most significant thing about teamwork. Anybody want to take a guess what he did?
Changed out Alex Smith for Colin Kaepernick.
No, that's awesome. Specifically, but he did something. What do you think he did? Anybody else?
He had like.
He what?
He had like a party where everybody got to know each other more.
Interesting. Sort of. So what he did was he changed the way they think. So he went and he met with everybody. He communicated and listened to what everybody on the team had to say. He collectively took that mindset and shared it with everybody and created a bond with everybody there. And he made them believe that they were winners. Because instead of being berated and having somebody look down at them and yell at them, which Singletary was such a fiery player, he wasn't great at sharing the communication. He had a vision, and it was sort of like he could do it better than they could. Well, look at what it got him. So great player, not great teacher, not great communicator, not a great leader, certainly no great teamwork. So it's a very significant example of how Harbaugh takes over that team. They go 13-3. So in 1 year with the same exact players, and so you as potential business owners, leaders, right? The responsibility that you have to communicate to the people that are around you, number one, and that communication is about business and it's about personal too. You weave together all of the ways that you make people feel secure. You make people feel part of something. Have you ever been with somebody who made you feel like an outsider? They don't really share, they're very cold, they don't make eye contact. Well, all of those skill sets are things that leaders have to do in order to lead. Because would you follow somebody that didn't make eye contact with you? Would you follow them? Would you run into a burning building with them? Probably not. So there were 3 sports analogies that I wanted to share. Now I'm going to switch the conversation to business, which is why we're here. So there are great examples of business leaders who have taken what's in their mind, and what's in their mind is this thing called vision. Great leaders have vision, right? The ones who are able to communicate that vision to the people that are around them, and oh, by the way, not just their employees, to everybody, to their employees' families, to their customers and clients, to their investors, that ability to communicate vision. You're looking at 4 of the greatest. Does anybody know who these people are? If you don't, Today, when you leave here, I want you to Google them and read up on them. Top left is a guy named Richard Branson. Richard Branson owns the brand Virgin. So they have Virgin Airlines, Virgin Cruise Lines, Virgin Hotel. He's going to be the first guy that puts consumers on the moon. He is an incredible articulator, and somebody that, if you know, the best part about the internet and the best part about being in business today is that there's so much information at your disposal. It's easy for you to find information and to digest it if you want to. So that's one person I would suggest that you read up on as a role model, because he is, and we've had the pleasure of meeting him and actually having dialogue with him, and he would be like your next door neighbor. You would never know that this guy is a multi-billionaire, has started zillions of businesses. And what's fascinating about talking to him is that he looks at the victories and the failures exactly the same. They're all learning, and one of my favorite things about him is that he set it up that every day at 5 o'clock he goes home and has dinner with his family. He then goes back to the office and does what he does. But the habits and the mindset of all of these great leaders are the ones that lead to great teamwork. He's already done it. So if you know, success leaves clues. Number 2, the top right is a guy named Jack Welch. Speechless. You know, just a guy that has been forever a leader in employee dynamics, a leader in understanding performance and understanding the responsibility that everybody has to be part of a common goal. And if they're not part of a common goal, they are not part of a team anymore. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how difficult it is sometimes that you do create these relationships and you want people to be part of the team, but sometimes the best thing you can do is to not have them be part of the team. And he has a rule that every year he drops the bottom 20% of people who are underperforming. So he is ultra focused on this performance mechanism. This guy created a small little company called Amazon. And he's actually from South Florida. So I would welcome you to read up on him, because they've continued to grow and continue to grow, right? And the bigger something gets, the harder it is to keep culture and to keep vision and mindset done. But they continually add value to not only their employees' families, their employees, you know, everybody down the line. They're creating value. That's all part of vision and teamwork. So, and then last but not least, she's the newest entry to the entrepreneur ranks, and it would be remiss to not have a female as part of it. Jessica Alba has a company called
Honest Company.
Honest Company. And she had a value proposition. She's very genuine about creating great products. We had the opportunity to see her speak, and she's an amazing human being who had a baby, wanted to create great products for her baby, and now has a booming company of people who share that like vision with her. So does everybody kind of get where I'm going with this? A lot of the same words: vision, culture, mindset. All of those are really significant in creating a team that operates as one. And it's really difficult. Yes, ma'am?
I don't know, the man who created Amazon, what's his name?
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos.
Thank you.
Sorry for skipping that over. And these are just 4. I can give you, anybody ever shop at a site called Zappos? It's the #1 place to buy shoes in the world. They're based in Las Vegas. We visited Vegas and had the chance to see him and his company, a guy named Tony Heisch. Unbelievable what he is doing now. After creating a great company and selling it, he's creating a teamwork amongst the community. The community is actually coming together as a team to make themselves better and create the things that they want. So really fabulous. So the takeaway from where I've started is success leaves clues, right? Just because you're an entrepreneur does not mean that you're great at everything. Okay, that's a misnomer that a lot of entrepreneurs get into business. They go, well, it's my business and I have to be head of everything. Well, you know, that's what part of teamwork is giving responsibility and delegating to people who are better than you and surrounding yourself with talent. So really significant. So from there, 2 main words, and I just told you a couple of them, but these are the 2 that I think have this most significant effect on teamwork. attitude, especially when you're looking to hire new people. I will hire attitude over skill any day. Because trust me, you can hire the most talented person in the world, and if they have a bad attitude, they will ruin the entire company. That simple. You've heard that one bad apple? That's that one bad apple, right? It has that kind of power. So the company, when you talk about the company, it's a living, breathing thing. It has a personality, and that personality is either happy or sad, mad, all those kind of things. So if you continue to think the way old companies think, where they don't think it's important to have employees be part of the conversation, and trust me, that there are still companies out there who have a divided wall and management lives up top and employees are not part of it. I don't condone that type of culture. I like to engage everybody. We've had, at times in our companies, we've had, hundreds of employees who we constantly shared and reinforced our vision, and so that new thinking was always part of it. So, okay, no, thank you. Okay, so we've kind of talked about this concept of teamwork. I want to get into some specifics about what do you think the purpose of a team is? Well, I'm great, I can do it by myself. No, I can't do it by myself. All right, I need a team. Why do you need a team? Boom, so read the first one.
Framework.
Okay, so teamwork allows you to create this framework of opportunity, of people doing things to get you to a better place. So I want you in your minds to think of an engine with a lot of different pistons. Everybody know what a piston is? Right? So it's the parts of an engine that are moving. If one of those things doesn't move, right, the engine seizes. So it's about framework. Number 2, planning. So interestingly enough, most people, and I include a lot of businesses in this, spend more time planning their vacation than they do their business. It's unbelievable how people take a 2-week vacation and spend all year planning it. They know exactly where they're going to be, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, what they're going to eat, all of that. But when it comes to their business and about their, how they're going to operate internally, right, they don't plan it. It has to be planned, right? Now, I will promise you that it never goes to plan, right, Lori? Does it ever go to plan? Never. But it gives you the basis of something to move off of. Number 3, somebody.
Problem solving.
Okay, so part of being really good in business is understanding that you are going to have problems. There is never a day that in any of the businesses that I'm involved in that there isn't a problem. Some are very small problems and some are gigantic problems. But they are things that absolutely need to be handled, and teamwork allows you to get different perspective. It allows you to have other people shine in and say, well, wait a minute, I don't see it that way. Here's a solution. So it's all really about collaboration and the opportunity for people to offer their opinion. Decision making, keep going through a couple of these. Increased participation. So one of the things that it's the purpose of a team is so that you can have all of these things: increased participation, support, and contribution. Of all of those things, I can promise you that there are very few companies that do them all well. So part of the ongoing challenge is to consistently gauge yourself and say, here's where the bar is. How are we doing at increased participation? Would it be good if you had a company where everybody on the left side of the room had no say and was not involved? Do you think that that would work? I want you to think about, anybody ever been in a rowboat? Okay, so it's a really, really good example of rowing, of teamwork. So we're all gonna get in a rowboat, and everybody on this side, you're gonna have the oars in the water, okay? And we're gonna get going, right? Everybody on this side of the room, you're gonna have your oars up in the air, okay? What do you think happens to the boat?
You go in a circle.
It goes around and around and around. So the reality is, the faster we can get everybody's oars in the water, working in the same direction, and I welcome you to Google a video of rowing, especially Olympic rowing, clockwork. It's like a dance, boom, 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 boom. They're constantly working to get to another destination. So keep going. Oh, I'm sorry, go back for a second. So this is a real interesting one. So one of the places that entrepreneurs fail miserably is they go, I came up with the idea, I started the business, so I own it. And it's a very, very, very short-sighted way about growing your business, because in our businesses, everybody owns it. I want everybody to be an owner. Now, they have different levels of ownership, they have different responsibility, but people react differently when they own something. So if you take ownership, so you started a business as part of this course, right? You take pride in that, right? Can you imagine the people around you if they didn't take the same pride? So whatever business it is, I meet you, you're jacked up, excited, you tell me all the passion about your business, and then the minute I walk away from you, I go to one of your employees, and they're like, this place sucks, I don't really want to, you know, so understanding that if you allow everybody to have their ownership, it's not about money, it's about pride and responsibility and all those things, about belonging. That's what teamwork is about. Do you belong? Do you have a voice? So it's really, really fascinating, and I can talk to you for days about just that alone. So keep going. So there are 6 very specific benefits to teamwork. That, and again, I'll make this available to you guys so you can take it away. But number 1 is it fosters creativity and learning. Our business, being a marketing company for 25 years, very collaborative, and very often an idea would come from somebody who was just interning with us. And we made them feel comfortable enough to just open their mouth and say something. A lot of companies don't want you to do that, or they create an atmosphere where employees are afraid to say something because they don't want to sound dumb or they don't want to be ridiculed. Well, generally speaking, great ideas start with a kernel of an idea that grows and other people jump on it. So teamwork fosters that mindset of, okay, wow, I can say something, and that ultimately could lead to something great, something that we bring to market. Number 2, so for the 27 years I've had on the ball, I consider myself to be a great salesperson, right? But I am not good at accounting at all. I don't understand the numbers, I don't like the numbers, I don't like doing paperwork. So what a team allows you to do is to add complementary skill sets along the way that allow you to do more and achieve more. So certainly very significant. Number 3, builds trust. Trust is probably the number 1 thing that where businesses fail. And think about this in your own personal lives. If you have a friend that you can't trust, do you have a friend? So, you know, in life, the ability to trust somebody, I love watching people who do trapeze. It is the ultimate trust, because if I'm flying in the air and you gotta catch me, man, you know, that's about as much trust as you're gonna get from somebody. So think about that. The ultimate teamwork is I'm letting go of the bar and I'm counting on you catching me. If you can create that in a business, you will do unbelievable things, because that bond, that trust is what translates to doing new things and being great in business. Okay, so do you ever have a fight with somebody? Yeah. Ever? Okay. And anybody in here ever have a fight with somebody? Right? Were you trained on the skill sets on how to resolve that? Was there some course that you took that said, hey, if somebody says this, do this? I know I never took that course. You know, so they don't. I think they exist now. I think they exist now. But the reality is, in a team, it teaches you how to resolve conflicts. You're going to have conflicts all the time. People have different opinions. Anybody know somebody who's moody? Right. So, is it fun to deal with somebody who's in a bad mood? Right. So you need to learn how to deal with that. So in a team environment, you're putting all of these variables together, and what it does is it teaches you to overcome that. So, number 5, we've already talked about this wilder sense of ownership, and here's the other thing, and I'm going to talk about it. Well, actually, I'm talking about it now. There's a gentleman in this market who just got nominated as the Business Person of the Year by FAU, a guy named Heiko, and I don't know how to. Something. He runs a hotel in Las Olas. called the Riverside Hotel. And one of the reasons why he was voted as the business person of the year was when he took over the hotel 6 years ago, he said as the general manager, he got about 10 phone calls a day from every employee with every little problem. Problem would come up, they're calling the general manager, they're calling the general manager. Well, fast forward to where they are today, and he's taken those 10 to 15 calls down to 1 a day. And how did he do that? He inspired people to make their own decisions, to take risks. You know what? If you inspire people and you back them up and you have a team that can do that, why would I want to spend time on this problem when I'm supposed to be leading the company? So building all of those things gets you to a place where your employees can take healthy risks. So, I want, Shea has worked with me for a couple of years. I trust him and he takes risks to make decisions. I may not love those decisions, but I've empowered him to make those decisions because in order for us to reach the goals that we want, I can't be worried about every single little thing. Does that make sense to anybody? Any questions so far? Anything you want to talk about further?
Guys, you remember who Mike is?
Yeah.
Well, tell him.
Tell me.
He actually came and he's talking to us and he's mentoring us here. The owner of the
Riverside.
Oh, you're kidding? Oh, fantastic.
He is actually implementing our JAB entrepreneurial class. So he's going to spend 7 lessons with the kids and we've already got one.
Well, tell him that I mentioned Heiko. I actually had the press release that just came out, and it's just so relevant. Lori asked me to speak, I think, on Wednesday, and I just threw together some stuff that I thought would make sense. So keep going. So here's what happens when it goes bad. So everybody loves when teamwork is great, all the things I talked about, all this purposeful stuff, and it's great. We're all playing in the sandbox, and everybody's having a good time, right? Nobody's taking each other's toys. Everything's great, right? But what happens when it goes bad? Boy, does it go bad. So number one is you create an environment of backstabbing. Does anybody know what that means? That means I'm going to stab you in the back so I can get to her. And I can keep moving up the corporate ladder, right? That environment does exist today, and trust me, it is uncomfortable. I'm in and out of a lot of companies, and I hear the way they talk, and I hear the way they treat each other. That environment is awful. Number 2, gossiping. We have a thing in our company, and always have, that the minute you have something in your head that's negative about our company, quit. Just get out. Don't waste your time, spoiling other people, because that's what happens. People get sour for lots of different reasons, right? Unless you have an environment where they can speak about it, right, and actually share whatever their problem is, right? They're going to go start gossiping about it. Oh, this is what management is doing, and they won't allow us to do this, and we got to do more paperwork, and we hear it all the time. So the reason why you want to be proactive about this positive teamwork culture is to avoid that. So if I come to a place and I don't like the way I'm treated, I'm going to leave. One of the most significant things about owning a business, if you cannot manage turnover, it will be the thing that puts you out of business. It is the most expensive thing to lose good talent and then try and replace it. There are all these companies that are recruiting companies now that will say, oh, we'll guarantee, pay us a fee, and we'll guarantee that we'll find you the right person. If you don't have the right culture, there's no right person out there. So that's where teamwork comes in, where you have an onboarding process. You have a way to welcome employees to the business. There are businesses, believe it or not, where people get hired, they get put down at a desk, and then no one ever talks to them. They just sit there for 2 weeks wondering, what's going on. So high turnover is a challenge. And then as leaders, right, if you have bad teamwork, right, you're going to be a stressed out leader, right? And it's funny to watch leaders that are stressed out because they can't even focus on what people are saying to them. They're so caught up in the moment and the stress and the inability to manage this, what's right in front of them, that it is a huge byproduct of bad teamwork. And then obviously bad performance. So I'll give you a for instance. We had gotten hired by Cold Stone many years ago, and Cold Stone was made up of franchise franchisors. I don't know, I'm assuming you know what a franchisor is, somebody who bought a brand, and the group hired our firm to find out why some of the stores were underperforming. And so one of the stores, which at the time was on Atlantic Avenue, they asked us to do some research. We did. I went in there, I interviewed the owner, and I interviewed the employees, and then I wrote a report, and the report was basically 4 words. And they were like, I put it down and there were 4 words there, and I could tell that they were very apprehensive, like, we paid you this money and you're giving us 4 words, and the 4 words were, and I think it might have been 5 words, the owner is a jerk. You cannot be in the ice cream business if the owner's a jerk, because you know what? His employees were jerks. He treated his employees terribly. This was a place that was supposed to be happy, and they were supposed to be singing, and you know, if you've ever been in a Cold Stone, right? Well, they were not, and they were not because the guy who was at the head created bad teamwork. So it was overall bad performance. Customers recognize that. So I want you to, I'm gonna say one more analogy about that to see if it makes sense. Have any of you ever been out to a really, really great meal, to a great restaurant where the service was really, really bad? Right? You have. Okay. So what was your overall experience there? Not good. Not good. Doesn't matter, man. They could be 5-star restaurant. Now flip that. You go to a restaurant where the food is like, okay, but the service is off the chart. Right? What kind of meal do you have?
I mean, the milk is bad, but at least the whole experience is pretty good.
The whole experience is pretty good. That's a byproduct of teamwork. That's what happens when you have great teamwork. Great teamwork would not allow that waiter or that service person to ruin the experience. It's very, very, very significant, because ultimately your business is going to touch lots of different people, and the way they experience you will dictate the success of your business. Okay, so I like to use sports analogies. The name of my company is On the Ball, even though we developed the name not because of any sports reference. It was because basically the people that we dealt with would always say, you guys are on the ball. Love working with you guys, you're always on the ball. But I still use a lot of sports references in all the strategies and all of the analogies that we create in order to align with business. And successful businesses have a morning huddle. So I asked before, if you watch football games, you know what a huddle is, right? What do you think happens in the huddle? What happens in the huddle?
They tell each other like to play.
They communicate with each other, right? And they tell each other things that are going right and things that are going wrong. So the receiver who just ran a pattern comes back to the huddle and says, I'm wide open, they're not covering me, they're doing this. Or the lineman is saying, they're hitting me low, they're doing, you know, but they are communicating with each other on an every single play basis. Great businesses have morning huddles. So it's all about engaging the employee in something that they have a voice. If somebody comes back to the huddle and says, hey man, I'm recognizing a problem, and you say, I'm not really interested in what you have to say, how does that make you feel? Bad, really bad. And what happens if you feel bad? What happens when you go face the next challenge or customer or whatever it is in your business?
You don't want to know.
You don't know. You know, okay, then I want my help. Okay, turn sour. So engaging the people that are around you, creating this framework, this team that you're going to work with, and then actually engaging them is very significant. So some ideas on what you could do on a daily basis is you can discuss what we're going to do today. One of the other things I learned from Nick Saban, and I was fortunate enough in my early career to actually represent him while he was the Miami Dolphins head coach, and learned a lot from him. We just saw him recently in Atlanta. He came up with this concept about the word win. And I always thought it was about winning games. And he said it had nothing to do with winning games. It was an acronym for a really, really important concept on how to manage teams. I was like, wow, okay. So what do you think the word win, W-I-N, what do you think that stands for? Any guess?
I really don't.
Okay, good.
Internal.
This is a great learning, great. I mean, it was so great for me. What's important now? great to forecast. This is great. This is what we want to do. Most teams get caught up in what happened yesterday. And what can you do about what happened yesterday? Nothing. It's done. It's gone. You know, sports gives us that analogy. They lost last year. Everybody was like, "Oh, Alabama's done. They're not going to win." You know, there's nothing they can do about it. The only thing they can do is turn around and focus. One of the biggest things businesses do get stuck in the losses. Something bad happened, and especially as it pertains to sales, which is my specialty, but especially as anything that happened before, learn from it and move on. So really, really significant. Problem solving, make adjustments. In the huddle, it's easy to make adjustments. So here's a perfect example as it relates to business. So if we were to get together every day like this, we're all together, right? And I'm looking at all of you in the eye, right? Do you think I'd be able to recognize if somebody had something wrong, if something was bothering them? Okay, so being really, really good at managing teams is recognizing when someone's about to go off the rails for whatever reason. We're all human beings. We have things that go on in our lives, right? Pressures that have nothing to do with the business, but if you're part of a team and you show up and you're not where you're supposed to be, it's great to have a team pick you up. It's great to say, hey, listen, now whatever's going on, let's talk about it offline and see if I can help you. So, the idea that you can solve all those problems on a daily basis, because what happens if somebody's really, really upset and nobody recognizes it? What happens a week later? What happens 2 weeks later? What happens 3 weeks, 4 weeks later? What happens? That problem turns out to be monstrous. And that's where high turnover comes in, that's where stress comes in, and all those kind of things. So I'm going to leave you with one last little tidbit, if you will, and it's sort of a way to remember the things that will be really important to your business. So does everybody want to make some cash? Is that good? So if you're not, get out of business. Because at the end of the day, businesses keep score. So the one thing I'm going to ask you to do is remember this acronym, okay? Knowledge. You need to be knowledgeable about your product, okay? And everybody in your organizations needs to be equally as knowledgeable. Because as Lori said before, when we talk about brand, you guys are, whatever business it is, it's a brand. The brand has various touch points, meaning however I come in contact with the brand, I want it to be a positive experience. I was just somewhere recently, I was at a juice place in Detroit, and I went into the place and I started talking, and I asked the girl a question at the counter, and she had no idea what I was talking about, and it was a relevant question that somebody in the juice business would know about the process, and it was a miss for me. It was like, wow, I don't feel good about coming here. She didn't have the knowledge. Attitude. Okay, like I said, if you want to have a successful business and a successful culture, hire attitude. It is the number one reason why I think businesses grow is because of a good attitude. And maybe the number one reason why they fail is because of a bad attitude. And anybody have a good time when people have a bad attitude? It's just not fun. At the end of the day, I love the businesses that I'm in. And again, I started off by saying, if you do what you love, the money will follow. So do you want to be in the boat, in that rowboat with somebody who's got a bad attitude? I don't think so. And then think about how it affects all the other people on the team, right? They probably feel the same way. Skills. How competent are you? How competent are the people in your group? This is not a playground. Business is not a playground. It's okay to have friends, but not friends necessarily in business. Okay, so skills and attitude and all these things make for a great team. And then last but not least, habits. Now, Lori will tell you, I do a 2-hour presentation. I travel around the country talking about habits. The little things that you do turn out to be the most significant. Small things create significant change. And I'm a big believer that your habits start the minute you wake up in the morning. And that starts with how early you wake up. It starts with what you eat, how you exercise, how you take care of yourself. Because if you're going to lead a team, right, they're going to follow you. And if you can't take care of yourself, what would make them think you can take care of them? You know, so I think that's my last. This was the press release on HEICO. But those are my comments on teamwork. I'm happy to discuss questions about that and just about anything else you want to talk about business. We're in some fun businesses, and we think we've seen pretty much everything there is to see. So if there's something that's burning in your heart, blast it away. Yes, sir.
So you said when you were talking about when business goes bad, you were talking about gossiping.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stop that? Like you mentioned it, but I wasn't really like understanding how to stop it.
Fantastic. So the fact that you're asking a question like that tells me a lot about you, so congratulations. You can't stop people from saying stuff. What you can do is preempt why they would say bad stuff. So generally when people gossip and speak behind your back, it's because the right forum has been created for that dialogue. Dialogue like that is very, very hard. It is really hard for people to look at each other and say, I don't like what you're doing, you know, or why you're doing it, or how you're doing it. But healthy companies have an environment. They set up a safe place for that type of communication to happen. And again, it's very difficult. Not a lot of companies do it well. But when you do well, the results are fantastic. So understanding and addressing it up front and saying, I will not tolerate this type of behavior. Our team will not tolerate it. Then it becomes self-policing. Then it's like, we used to have a thing, I think when we talk about habits, and maybe this will help, we used to have a thing where nobody smiles anymore. It's like the #1 habit that you could create, and nobody smiles. When you're driving home tonight, or wherever you drive, you guys old enough to drive? Good. When you're in the car, driving with somebody, and you pull up to the first red light, I want you to look to the left and look to the right, and tell me if those people are smiling. I would say 100% not, right? It's unbelievable how many people don't smile. So it's this habit that we as a culture said, if we catch you not smiling, you gotta put $5 in the charity jar. Because we self-policed each other. It was important because I wanted when people came into our office, if everybody's smiling, they go, what's going on here, man? This is a great place to come. You've been to my office, right? Laura, you love coming to our office. We created that environment ourselves. We did that. We understood the value of team. And do you want me to be walking down the hall with my head down and not talking? No. No, I want you to smile. I want you to be happy, because happy breeds other happy people. So what happens if I walk up to you and just smile at you? You're going to smile back. It's contagious. It's unbelievable.
One or the other.
What's that?
I think you're a little weak.
Oh, right, exactly, which I am. So I have no problem with that. But you'll understand, even to diffuse an argument, right? When somebody's crazy, going crazy, if you just look at them and smile, they're going to look like, what's wrong with you, man? What are you crazy? You know, so it is those little things that self-police. So specific to your question, if you set up the rules and the policies that don't allow for that behavior, it goes away.
Can I answer that?
Please.
I think communication is the key. And it's like that at home, it's like that in your dating relationships, it's like that in your friendships, it's like that in business. We have something here, and I know Caitlin will know what I'm talking about, called clearing the decks. And so I can't stand, to your question, when people are behind the scenes, either gossiping or complaining or whatever. We have an open forum, right? I think Caitlin would agree. So why go to someone, either your leader or me, and come and tell us what's going on? So when I hear two people going, that's going on, I don't give them warning either. I've only done this a couple of times, and by the way, I've never had to really do it again. I brought them in the room and said, okay, you're saying this, you're saying this, you need to talk to each other. Now, if they had done that on their own, I wouldn't have had to do that. It's very uncomfortable to be put in that situation. But I will tell you that it really does stop that whole pattern of gossiping and complaining. If you've got a complaint, come to your supervisor or your manager and say, hey, this is not working. Or I'm having a real problem with this person. Can you help me figure out how to address it if you haven't been able to do it on your own? But when you get called together and all of a sudden you have to address it together and you got thrown in, and especially when you're gossiping about that person, really uncomfortable. Most people don't want to get put in that situation
So I
again.
call that backstabbing, that gossiping, but you're gonna run into situations where you're gonna go to your manager's not gonna wanna hear it, they're gonna shut you down, and that's part of that understanding that you as a leader or the owner of your own business, you can create any kind of sandbox you want. You know, we created an open sandbox. As a matter of fact, the way we hire people is, first and foremost, would we have a beer with them? If we wouldn't have a beer with them, why would we want to spend every day? They can be the most talented person in the world, but we want that association. We want that camaraderie. You know, that's what makes fun.
And you guys should not go have a beer yet.
Right.
Okay.
Not yet.
Root beer.
Root beer. There you go. Any other questions? There's got to be some.
Why don't we go down the line and each one of you just ask something that maybe not even about the presentation, but as
Correct.
an entrepreneur, anything that you may want to ask.
And you're up first.
Good. I think it's morning.
It's
still.
morning.
Morning,
It's
yeah.
still morning.
I'm Jessica. When did you what was your first job when you became an entrepreneur?
That's great. That's a great question. So I have always been a worker. When I was a kid, I went to school here in Broward County. Went to Hollywood Hills High School. I actually rode my bike to a deli. I was 14 years old, and I started as a busboy, and then worked in the bakery, and worked my way up to waiter. And I always wanted to be self-reliant, always. And one of the reasons why I had constantly searched out being an entrepreneur was I wanted the feeling of doing it myself. I wanted to build, and to this day, I love the building of stuff candidly much more than I like doing the stuff. So, you know, and we're fortunate we get to help people build stuff now. But that feeling of understanding that you can take something from an idea and make it real and then have somebody actually buy it is mind-boggling to me. So I love it. You know, so I was hooked from early on, and I do a lot of coaching and a lot of personal coaching, and it's sort of, I've likened it to this. There is a bridge that some people, everybody gets to, and not everybody crosses. In order to be an entrepreneur and put your entire future in your own hands, most people are just not willing to take the responsibility to do that. It's a big responsibility, especially as you get older and you have family and employees and stuff like that. It's a big responsibility that every other week, my people get paid. You know, it's on me. So there's a lot of people who rather say, listen, I don't want to do that. I'd rather be the president of the company and have somebody else worry about owning it. So it's a personal choice. But once you go over it, you never go back, ever. You don't have to stand. It's good stuff.
Okay. I'm Yasmin, and I want to know, how did you start the business?
So I was fortunate enough that I've always been really an outgoing, personality type guy. I don't think any of you would describe me as shy. So I've always been able to meet people and talk to people. So I gravitated towards sales jobs, and I was very, very successful in those jobs. So the jobs that I had, I learned a lot. I'm a sponge, and I learned so that the day I wanted to do it for myself, I knew from everybody around me. And to this day, I will tell you that I'm a student of the game before I am anything else. The presentations I make are things that I've learned from other successful people. So as I said at the beginning, success leaves clues. You're not out there alone. This idea of mentorship, which you guys are taking advantage of now, you'd be surprised how many other entrepreneurs are afraid to do that. I have mentors who I go to at every stage of the game, and they're my board of directors. They're my accountability to say, hey guys, here's what I'm doing, here's why I'm doing it, and they call me out on it. So the first business I had, I started selling with my dad, and my family was in the ladies' shoe business, so I started selling shoes. And then I became a jean rep. I covered the whole Southeast for one of the hottest lines of jeans, which was great. I traveled and met a lot of people, and ultimately wound up being involved in the cellular phone business, which was a really, really fun rocket ship business. The one commonality, and the thing I can tell and I teach everybody, is the best inventory you can create for yourself is the people you know. And you guys have the great fortune of having all these digital tools that I didn't have when I was rising through the ranks. But LinkedIn is probably the #1 business tool because it always comes down to who you know and who you can connect with. So my son, who was 18 and just graduated high school, is now at the University of Florida as a student assistant on the football team. I have him on LinkedIn, and every single person he comes in contact with, I have him connect on LinkedIn because it builds a community that at any given time you can go back to that community and ask them questions and stuff like that. So long-winded answer, but hopefully you got it. Yes, sir.
Hey, I don't have a question.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna ask.
No, we're good. No worries.
How old were you when you first started?
Say again.
How old were you when you first
How
started?
old was I? My first business, I think I was 22. You know, so I think part of getting into business is learning how to understand fear and doubt. Everybody has fear and doubt. The professionals, the ones who are successful, just learn how to deal with it. So, I mean, even some of the biggest deals that we've closed recently, there's always that moment of, wow, we did it, and then, oh my God, how are we going to do it? what are we going to do now? So, I don't think age matters anymore. I think especially in this digital environment, I see 20-year-olds that are building businesses and selling them when they're 25. So it's crazy.
Question.
If you have a question, if not, it's fine.
Could you give me perhaps one of your bigger failures?
Yeah, I'd love to. Good, really excellent question. Really excellent question, and very relevant to this marketplace. So the heritage of our company is in sports. When I started on the ball, we helped companies use sports and entertainment assets in order to grow. And one of our biggest failures was we had a company, and I'm not going to mention any of the names because it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate, but we had a stadium deal, a naming rights deal for a stadium in Broward County. So that'll kind of get you in the zone. What's that? That narrows it down. We had a corporate sponsor who was going to actually put their name on that building, and I was actually in Memphis with the clients the night before the representatives were going to fly in and sign the deal, and I got a call that night and said, hey, we decided to go with somebody else. And I was with the client looking at them, and it was like I had already spent that money. It was like such a big deal, and it was so much notoriety, and it would have been so great, but it was a colossal failure. And what it did for me, which I think back now, it was a gift. It taught me that you're going to get punched in the stomach a lot, and the faster you learn how to stand up from it and understand that was a learning. It happened for a reason, and it did. It happened for a reason. I've been much better because of all the losses and all the failures. So that was a doozy. That was hard to take, and you could, a couple of different ways to react. You could be, oh, poor me, why did it happen to me? Make all the excuses. It happened, and the takeaway for me is that nothing is ever done until it's paid for, and the money clears in the bank. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Earlier you mentioned that you worked for Nick Saban, is that correct?
Correct.
I'm like a really big sports fan, and I just love sports, and I was just wondering if you could give me any tips for hopefully one day help me reach my goal of working with a big franchise.
Say it again.
If you could give me tips or any recommendations.
Okay, so this is universal. This has nothing to do with just sports, but it'll answer your question. Do it for free. Offer yourself as an intern as many times as you can. Get in and show what you can do. The opportunity to work and learn at the same time is equally valuable to the school stuff that you're going to learn. So I think being a student of the game is great, but having a place to go do it on the field. And I've seen great people who come to me and said, hey, I'd like to work for you. And I consistently would say to them, we don't hire right out of the bat. They go, what are you talking about? I go, I'll give you an opportunity to work for us for 90 days. And if you do great stuff and you create value, you'll earn a spot on the team. Then I'll have to hire you. And if you're willing to do that, great. If you're not, then there's plenty of people, you can go find a job. So how do you view yourself? There's plenty of opportunities to get internships and to get into places where that valuable on-the-job learning is remarkable. And so everybody in my organization has done that. They've given before they get, and it's unfortunate that the the world we grow up in is people want, gimme before I'll put it on a credit card before I get, This is a real lesson to do it, do the work, learn, do everything, and then the results will be there for you. So at any time, if you connect with me, I'd be glad to introduce you to the teams. We have friends that intern with the Marlins and Panthers and Heat all the time, so friends, sons.
How many businesses are you working with at a time?
Really good question. That's nice. So we currently have 7 offices. We have Detroit, we have LA, we have Detroit, we have Charlotte, we have Atlanta, we have New York, we have Miami, and we have West Palm. Each of those markets works with, at any given time, probably 4 or 5 businesses. But we have all different kinds of projects. Some are long-term projects. Some are, we're in there for a day or a week or a month. So it's a revolving door, if you will, of opportunity. But we believe wholeheartedly that anybody that is looking to sell something, we can help them sell more of it.
So you mentioned building trust. When you you said have a beer with them, but are there any other ways to build trust such as having a father?
So you will learn not to take everything I say literally. It's really more of a metaphor. Here's a skill set that most people don't have, and candidly, it's probably the skill set that I work on the most, is listening. People want to be heard. So if you create an environment for employees to be heard, they'll give you all the clues. People will talk and they will tell you everything about them. You'll be able to know. That goes for sales as well. Most salespeople don't shut up. They just keep talking and talk over somebody where all the learning is what that other person is saying. So I think being genuine is really significant. Knowing your audience, knowing, and then knowing what you're looking for. What do you want in a team? What makes a good teammate to you? Those are all parts of being honest and communicating. Trust comes from honesty and communication. So.
Also, just to clarify, what he meant by that was, would you want to do business with somebody that you wouldn't want to go to dinner with? Would you invite them over to your house?
Correct.
Somebody that you want, that you'd like to have around.
Imagine waking up every day and there was a teammate that you had that you just didn't get along with, you didn't like, that you didn't have anything in common, you didn't see things the same, or didn't have an environment of collaboration. Nobody likes that. So we've decided long ago we had a very open environment. We didn't do walls in our office. It was all very open, and people like that. People loved coming to our office, employees and clients, because of that atmosphere. That we were all. There wasn't anything I was going to say that I wasn't willing to say to you. So yes, ma'am.
Oh, what places have you traveled to?
So I traveled mostly in the country. I've traveled for business. I did travel. I went to Dublin last year for a conference, which was really fun. I'm a big beer drinker, so I got to experience the Guinness factory there. So that was fun. And then now my speaking engagement is my speaking stuff is taking me out of the country, and I got invited to do a keynote speech in Cancun recently, which was those are the fringe benefits of doing what I do. They go, would it be okay if we took you to Cancun for a week? And I was like, oh, yes, that would be okay. That would be fine. And so I spoke for 45 minutes, and they gave me a week vacation. So it was great. Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to college?
That's an awesome question. That's an awesome question. I did go to college. I didn't go to class. I went to college.
Do not listen to her.
I have to be honest. I want to build trust with you. I think for a lot of people, school is very important. I, in hindsight, wish that I had stuck it out to learn some of the things that I now pay people to do. But instinctively, I had this burning desire to get out and do it and not put the investment in school. That would not be true of my 2 sons. I pleaded with them to get their masters and stuff like that, which they are currently. They will do that. My older son is a college football coach as well. He coaches out in Nevada. And schooling is really important. You learn a lot more about yourself. It's not just the book stuff. So I'm not sure I have a great example there, but it is what it is.
fall into something, by the way, there are some great trade jobs out there. There's every industry you can imagine, first of all, is here in South Florida. So technology, marine industry, auto industry. Let me tell you, they're not grease monkeys anymore in the auto industry. They're making $100,000 a year working on computerized technology, making sure your car is running exactly the way it's supposed to run. So there's lots of jobs that may not require a 4-year college degree, but probably require some sort of continued education.
Well said.
And so I just want to make
Well
sure to
said.
clarify, because, you know, I have 2 children. One, she actually is in college, but I really didn't think she would go to college. I really thought she might go more for a teaching certificate or something like that with small children. But it ended up, once she started, then she wanted to go for the degree. So there's lots of options out there, there's lots of fields, and you want to make sure you find, as Steve said, what you are happy about, what you're passionate about, and then whatever it takes to be the best at that job, whether it's a certificate, a training, a 4-year college degree, a master's degree. That's what's important, I think. So
I think you hit on something that's really, really important. When I was in high school, I couldn't think for myself. I was told, here's what you do. You go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have a kid. You know, it was like my life was already pre-planned because that was the thinking then. And I think what you're starting to see now is people are identifying what's important to them. And if you go back to Nick Saban, it's what's important now. What's in your life? Where are you now? And you should be capable of either making your own decision or finding advice on, and counsel on how to make your own decision. What's right for you? And to what Lori said, it's not right for everybody. College was not right for me. I was ready. I knew I was destined to do the things that I have done, and I love them. Now I learned on the job. So, by the time I was 30, I had such career experience in sales when guys who had went to school till they were 28 were just getting out and, they're getting going. I was miles ahead of them. So, you gotta, follow your heart. That's where, again, that saying, if you do what you love, the money always follows. It really does.
Do you have any, that years of working, do you have any regrets or anything you wish you could redo or do a different way?
Wow, what a fantastic question. You guys are fantastic. I don't actually live a regretful life. I point forward as opposed to pointing back. Are there things that I could have done differently? Obviously. But regret is, I think, a wasted emotion. There's nothing I can do about it. It's what I did. It's what I was thinking at the time. So I don't have regrets. I am probably the happiest I've ever been in my life today. Regret just has no room. But a really, really, really good question from somebody. That's a shocking question, but your radar is working, so it's great.
Do you think that the attitude of the person that owns the company, perhaps obviously if you own a company, you make a lot of money. So those people who are more humble about it, compared to those who are more flashy about it, do you think that has an impact on the company?
Okay, so a couple of things that you said that I want to address. Not everybody who has a business has a lot of money. Okay, so the two do not equate. It's, and I use this example a lot. If I said that I wanted to give you a McDonald's franchise, everybody would line up around the corner. But you know what? There's really good McDonald's franchises and there's really bad. So everything is good and bad. What's the difference in the good ones and the bad ones? What's the difference? The owner. It comes down to who owns it. So however you are genuinely, however you show up genuinely, if you show up as somebody who is trying to impress people by being flashy and stuff like that, people will recognize that, and that's not genuine. If you're genuinely a loud person like I am, and you're out there and you do what you do and it's genuine, it doesn't bother me. I'm not looking for other people's recognition. So that the way I would like you to sort of digest that is that it's you being you, and that's how you show up to other people, and that's what people buy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. But there is real money in it if you get at it.
As an entrepreneur or a leader, how do you avoid getting too stressed
stressed or overwhelmed with like what you're doing?
I don't know. I was hoping you would tell me.
So,
Do you guys want to? Some days are better than other days.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
He has us.
You create, I do this presentation called the Rules of Engagement. There are things that you need to do for yourself. One of them is yoga, one of them is running, one of them is music. You know, there's a lot of these rules that you can use to try and deflate stress. I think the number one thing of all of them is gratitude. You know, we unfortunately had a situation that we were dealing with last night. One of our friends and clients, her husband was in a very bad car accident. He's paralyzed from the leg, from the waist down, and that's a real world problem. Most of the things that people get stressed about are not real world problems. If you don't have sick kids and you don't have grief like that, if you can get up and be grateful that the sun is shining and we have these beautiful green trees and you're healthy, gratitude goes a long way to dispelling stress and fear and doubt.
That's not very agree.
It's not right. I travel all the time. I was in Cleveland 2 days ago, and Cleveland is now already 37 degrees, and it's cold. And I went to go running, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be running outside anymore for a while. So I told everybody, I said, this is probably my last trip without a coat. Did everybody get to ask a question? Yes, sir.
What college did you go to?
What college? I went to the University of Florida. And I will tell you that I went there because that's where everybody else went. It was the in place to go. A lot of my high school mates went there. I did not have the fortitude at the time to make a decision to do something that was probably better for me. This was a really big school. I got caught up in all of the fanfare. And so, when I talk to students like yourselves, it is imperative to have your own mind. Do things that are good for you, not for your parents and not for your friends and not for, I'm fortunate that my younger son has a mind of his own. He's very, very smart. He got accepted to 5 schools, but he was dead set on working for the University of Florida football team, and he did. He got accepted, he got approved, he got hired, and he gets to be part of the football team and travels with them and does stuff. So it's like, and that was all on him. That was something he wanted. He had complete focus and passion, and I couldn't make the decision for him. I couldn't influence him and say, well, you got into Indiana, and Indiana's this great school, and you should probably go to Indiana. He didn't want to hear it. He goes, Dad, here's what I want to do, here's how I'm going to do it. And so, the thing I'll leave you with is that having your own mind, especially when you're in business, you're going to have a lot of people. I have a very good friend of mine who just told us something, and I'll say it, Tim Goring, who I love, and he's very smart and great salesman. He said, he came up with this saying, he goes, quit shooting on me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, you ever say to somebody, hey, we're going to the movies tonight, you should see this movie. And he goes, or we're going on vacation, you should go to this place. Everybody has an opinion about what you should do. You got to make up your own mind. And if that is I think a very, very significant part of being a successful entrepreneur, because you're going to need to make decisions where you have to stand alone, where you can't have the crowd, and it's all about you and your ability to do that without being liked. It's not a popularity contest. It's your business, it's your responsibility, and that's what people count on you for. They count on you for making the hard decisions and taking the ship in a place where if you see the vision and you feel the passion, that's where it should go. So, we're out of time?
I think so.
Okay.
I just want, first of all, let's thank Steve.
You guys have fun?
I don't know about you guys, but I have one question, because I want him to know that his time here today was so worthwhile. He impacted me, okay, and he's standing in the back of this room because, as he said, we are always learning. So I always, when I listen to him, learn things and hear things. I took all my own notes because I'll use them all on my own staff, right? But, so tell me, if this impacted you today, made you think about things, and something he said resonated with you, and something you think you're going to take forward. Let me see your hand.
So I think what would be cool too, along those lines, is that, and we do this in all of the stuff that we do, write down one thing that you'll put into action. As a business owner, one thing you heard today, just one. Because success is done in very small steps. So whatever it is, whatever you heard today, if you train yourself, your habit is to take away one good thing from all the things you hear, you'll be extremely successful.
And to your point, or that, I'm sorry, the gentleman, Estefano, you talked about attitude. What will happen eventually, and Steve is so right, I'd rather have 30 people that have great attitudes. I can teach them the skills, okay? And what will happen is that when you have that person on the team who really has a crappy attitude, eventually what will happen if the team just continues to move without them, they usually will leave. Because they'll be so unhappy, they won't feel like they're part of the team. So it kind of works its way out sometimes, but just that attitude piece is just so important. So anyway, I want to thank Steve. He's a dear friend. And
Thank you guys. Love it.